So in this case, we're going to cover these 10 features. We've got some big enhancements to acknowledgements, which is already a popular feature, at mentions of managers for comments, comment segmentation, additions to the heat map, some improvements to accessibility, some big enhancements to benchmarking, shareable dashboards, actions, the values add-on, and manager onboarding. We'll start with the enhancements to acknowledgements. You may know this feature already, where we gave you the option to let an employee know that they've been heard by clicking acknowledge and letting the employee receive an email. We've now improved this, so as you can see in the video here, when you hover over acknowledge, you now have 4 different options. When you click any of these, the employee will receive an email with the acknowledgement you've chosen. We came up with the 4 different acknowledgements. Actually quite an interesting story. We had the data science team here look at the type of conversations that managers were starting to try and get more feedback from their employees. And we found out that there were 4 or 5 that many managers were sending these short emails, and we thought we could turn these into acknowledgements and speed up the process. Now, it's very important to let employees know that they've been heard. And the reason for this is to increase participation rate, but also to get higher quality feedback from employees. Now, when people know that they've been heard, they start to provide more solution-orientated feedback rather than just raising issues. Moving on to the next one. Now, this has been another popular request we've had for managers to be able to alert another manager or an admin to be able to alert another manager towards their attention, towards a comment. So now, as you can see in this video here, when you click the conversations feature and you go to the notes section, this is a private note between you and other managers in the company. Now you can @mention the name of a manager and write them a comment here. When you do this and add the note, they'll then get an email alerting them that they need to come and have a look at this comment. Now, this is very useful for flagging issues and drawing attention to things. Now, another very popular request we've had is to be able to see which team a comment has come from. Now, these 2 features work well together because, for example, now as an admin, when you hover over the little people icon here, you can see which team the person who gave this comment is in. And we've arranged this so you can see all the way up in the management hierarchy. So you can see here the names of the 2 managers. Now, it's important to know that this is not, of course, the person who actually gave the comment. This is the person leading the team which the comment came from. Now, using this in combination with the previous feature, with the @mentions feature, is especially useful because you can see, okay, there's a comment here. Now, we really want to make sure that this manager has seen this comment. So you can go in and leave a note and say to the name of the manager, have a look at this. Now, for now, this feature is only available to admins, but we're looking forward to seeing how you use it and your feedback on it. Now, the 4th feature is actually 3 features in one, and we've made some big improvements to the heat map based on your feedback. So the first is when you hover over the name of a driver, you can extend it out and you can see the sub-drivers on the heat map as well. The second one is a particularly popular request, and that's to view participation rate on the heat map. So you now have a far more granular view of how participation is throughout the organization, which is particularly useful if there are teams that are perhaps dropping off. You'll be able to see this, and then you can bring that up with the manager and have them communicate further about the survey within their team. The third enhancement here is the difference to benchmark option, which again is another way of surfacing the things that are most important to look at. So you can see in this case, the colors change and it's much easier to find out where you have issues. The 5th option is big improvements to accessibility. So if you imagine you're a colorblind user and you look at Peakon, we use a lot of different colors to signify, okay, what needs your attention and where you're doing well. But unfortunately for the colorblind users, these didn't make much sense being red and green, which look the same. However, now, when you change the setting, you then see a completely different color scheme that makes it visible to colorblind users. We've also improved the survey experience, so it now works with screen readers, so visually impaired people can take the surveys, particularly on their phones. Now, benchmarks was something we invested a lot in this year, and we've made some big improvements to. The first of them was a big feature launch we did a few months ago called True Benchmark. And what this does is enable you to understand what's really unique about your team and not something that the scores are affected by general trends that we see across all companies. The big purpose of this is to increase the ownership that managers feel around their scores. Now, you've probably all heard from different managers in your organization where they say, oh, well, I don't think my score is fair compared to the company average because I have many new starters or many people in a certain profession. And people sort of have this idea that these will affect the scores. But now what we've done is we've made this much more transparent, and we've actually shown whether these things really do affect the scores based on all the data we have across all the organizations using Peakon. So when we look at this, you can see by the score, we have the option to click on the True Benchmark icon. Now, when you do this, one of the first things you can do is to have a look at the composition of companies that are in the benchmark. So you can see where they're from, more specifically, what part of the industry they're in. And then you can go down and look at the corrections that Peakon has applied in order to create this true benchmark. So in this case, we can see that there are many low tenure employees, or high tenure employees, sorry. So we've changed the benchmark based on this. We've also made other enhancements to benchmarks, which enable you to set a different benchmark based on a segment of your company. So for example, if perhaps you work in financial services, but you have a big technology department as part of your company. Now, you may not want that technology department to be benchmarked against the rest of the financial services industry. You may want it to be seen as part of the technology industry. And now you can do that by setting segment-specific benchmarks, as we're seeing in the video here. You can also do this for internal benchmarking. So perhaps if you had a manufacturing area of your business that you didn't want to be benchmarked against the rest of the company, you could set all the different manufacturing locations to have a manufacturing benchmark within your company instead. And the next enhancement you may have already seen, but is very popular, is the shareable dashboards feature. Now, what this enables you to do is to create a stripped down version of the Peakon dashboard with less of the sort of sensitive information like comments and topics. And what this enables you to do is then share this perhaps on a big screen within your office, or to send it out to your employees. And this is really valuable because it makes everyone feel part of the journey to create a more engaging culture, and everyone can really understand the culture that they work in. Now, one of the other improvements that we've made to shareable dashboards is to create a way for you to share these with your team in a very simple manner. So you click the share icon in the top right corner of your dashboard and choose what you'd like to include on the shareable dashboard. And then you can generate a link. So you could send this link out, or you can choose the share with employees option, and Peakon will actually send out an email with the link to all of the employees in this segment. Now, Actions has been another big improvement that we've made, and we released it a few weeks ago, and we've had some great feedback so far, and we're definitely looking forward to hearing more of it. The idea with Actions is to bring action planning directly into the Peakon dashboard. So it's all right where all the feedback and all the insights are that you would take action on. Now, when managers go to their dashboard and they see that something's been raised as a priority, Peakon will suggest actions that would help towards that priority. And of course, they can create their own actions in here and add them to their dashboard. Now, when they do this, they'll have their own list of all their actions. And as someone higher up in the organization, perhaps their manager or you as an admin, will be able to go in and have a look at people's action plans. And this makes for a much more transparent and accountable way of doing action planning. This can be combined with the feature you've just seen with the shareable dashboards to enable employees to understand what their manager is going to do in reaction to their feedback, which again is a great way of increasing participation and letting people know that they've been heard. Now, the next edition is an add-on for Peakon that you can purchase as a separate product, essentially, and it's particularly useful for organizations that are going through cultural transformations. So in this case, we often heard that many people were using values as a way of steering their culture towards a way that would align with their strategy. Now, often this Peakon seemed like a great place to ask for this kind of feedback because, of course, engagement is very tangential to this. However, it didn't fit within Peakon's driver framework, which is important for benchmarkability and to be universal across all organizations. So we've given the option to create values which essentially work like drivers, and you can ask your own values question. So we have the standard question, but then you can also include a description of the driver and enable employees to describe how their experience aligns with your particular company values. Now you can then go in and look at how the alignment is across all of the organization. And this is the most valuable insight that we've seen, that you can go and look and see, okay, there are certain teams where they really feel that they're embodying the values and it's part of their work experience, and other teams where they feel not so aligned, and that's where you can direct your focus. And the last of the new features that you may not have seen, it's very likely you wouldn't have seen this, in fact, because this is based around the first-time user experience that people have when using Peakon. And we've built this to introduce managers to the dashboard in a more friendly way and enable them to familiarize themselves with all the key concepts of Peakon, like what does engagement mean, what are driver scores, and what are the related comments. So now when a manager logs into Peakon for the first time and looks at their feedback, they'll get this experience. Let's see how many people that have been surveyed and what the participation rate. They'll see which of the drivers are most important and some comments related to these. They'll see their overall engagement score and some areas that they should work on. And then we'll instruct them of where they need to look next. Now, this is all before they see the dashboard for the first time. And when they click through, they'll then get to the dashboard. And the last thing is a small improvement, but could be very useful for you. And that's the improvements we've made to the Help Center and the way the Help Center ties in with the product. Now, all of the features you've seen here are well documented in the Help Center with videos, presentations, and different articles. And now to find the Help Center, you simply need to click in the bottom left corner of Peakon. And this will open the Help Center. And you can search for the name of a feature that you'd like to know more about. Now, of course, your account manager here will be happy to discuss any of these features with you and will help you activate them within your account. Now, we have definitely got a lot of questions here, so I'm looking forward to hearing them. And we'll start with some of the questions now. So we have one question about the onboarding. Can we use the onboarding to excite managers? How do we activate it? Now, there isn't a way to activate this for managers that have already used the platform, but we would definitely like to provide you with some resources to kind of fulfill this need and to excite managers. Let's have a look if we have any more questions. We have a question, is it only available in English, which I think is the manager onboarding? The answer is no, it should be translated into all of the dashboard languages that we have, which I believe is 6 languages at the moment. Can we share the PowerPoint from this presentation? Yes, sure, I can send that to you. Where can I activate the option for the colorblind users? So they themselves can go to their account settings, which are in the top left corner of Peakon, simply clicking on their name, and then they'll see the option there. Is the manager feature on the comments dedicated by segment data or the access we've given to users? So the feature that you've seen with, which I believe is this feature, the ability to see which segment a comment has come from, is based on the relationships that you've already set up in Peakon. So this would be based on who would be able to see the comment, essentially their direct manager and the managers above them in the organizational hierarchy. Okay. Is there any linkage between acknowledgements and action planning? There is not at the moment, although there is essentially a way that managers could communicate that they were they'd made something part of their action plan through acknowledgements, because one of the options we have there is the ability to say working on it, or they're working on it already. So there's a link in that sense, but not in a more product sense. Ulrich asks, will a new manager automatically get the onboarding once they've been added? Yes, that's the case. So one of the big reasons behind adding this feature has been that, of course, we provide a lot of manager training when you first start using Peakon, but there's not the option to go back and train managers every couple of weeks when, of course, you get new managers within your organization. So that's one of the reasons that we've done this. And as soon as they log into the dashboard for the first time, they'll see the new onboarding system. We had a question about the actions. Can you explain a bit more how to work with the action plan? Yes, absolutely. Let's look at that now. So the main idea with actions, I'll share my screen in full again, is essentially that people will go in and they will get the recommendations from Peakon in terms of their priorities around what they need to work with. The workflow we then recommend is that a manager would go in and they would look at the comments that are related to the actions or the priorities that they've been given, because the comments are often the best source of ideas for how they could address this. So they would go in, have a look at the comments, see what people are saying and what's the reason behind the score. Then have a look at the segmentation and see whether the actions should be related to a particular area of their team that they need to work with. They would then go up, and then when we look at, let's go back to that. When they look at the suggestions that we have, they would see, okay, does these suggestions make sense given what I've just read from my team in particular? Sometimes they will, because we've designed these to be reasonably general and to educate people about the kind of actions you would take towards a priority, but sometimes they won't, and they'll go in and create their own actions. We would normally recommend that managers would create one action that's a more strategic thing that would perhaps take a few months to work towards, and then to create some smaller kind of easy win actions based off the comments that they have. Bjorn asks, is there a possibility for administrators to acknowledge and or monitor the actions of managers? Yes, absolutely. That's a big part of the actions feature, actually. When you are on the dashboard as an administrator, you simply need to search in the top left corner for the name of a manager. And once you've done that, you can then go in and view the dashboard as that manager. So you can see exactly what actions they've taken or what actions they're planning to take. And you can even add to their action plan from there. On the Help Center, if you search for actions, we have a video that explains all of this and will actually show you exactly how to do this. Right, that seems like it for all the questions that we've had today. Thanks very much, everyone, for participating. It's really good to have a more interactive session today. We're going to be doing these webinars on a more regular basis next year. So we're going to have at least one a month to catch you up with all the new features, and especially when we have bigger product releases. So we look forward to seeing you and hearing from you then. Thanks. You're welcome to contact me anytime. My email address is michael@peakon.com. You can also ask your customer success manager to walk you through any of these new features, and especially some of the features that require your action as an administrator to enable for your organization, which includes actions and includes True Benchmark. And if you're interested in the values add-on, of course, let us know about that and we'll arrange that for your organization too.